Hello, we're all back again. And yes, there's one, Robo Lawyer, Pencil Talk, Angel and Robo Murini. Can we all see Robo Murini? There's enough like that. What we're all worried about our corporate law exam. Well, I've put out an examination information statement to make sure that students are aware of what I expect them to know and be aware of. So if they follow that carefully, they should have reasonable guidance. Yes, there's the part B, which is the 10 mark essay question, and then they have to do 3 out of, I think, 5 in part A, and part A questions are each worth 20 marks. What do you need to know about? Well, there's certain things which are important. You need to know about, for example, partnership and liability of partners, and how each partner can be considered an agent of the firm. What's that angel learning? And so a partner can bind a firm in contracts even though they didn't have the authority to do that. That's correct. In some cases that can be the case. It causes lots of problems. And you need to know about trusts. You need to know about companies and corporations. So you need to know the parties to a trust with certainties required to set up a valid trust, the rights and obligations of the various parties. That's very important. That's with the trust. And then you need to know how to form a company, how companies are formed, and how companies come to an end, the termination, the winding up of companies or liquidation. So the formation. You also need to know about the internal governance rules of companies, whether they're replaceable rules, constitutions, how those rules can be changed by the members of the company, what restrictions there are. You need to know about the duties of directors. Yes, directors' duties are always important. You need to know about the business judgment rule, which was something they brought in to take some of the pressure off directors when they were making decisions. So the law recognises that company directors sometimes have to make business type decisions. They're not as prudent as, say, a trustee who's expected to look after the property for the benefit of the beneficiaries. But yes, we also need to know what remedies are available, whether the directors breach their statutory duties or their general law duties. What's that, Robo Lawyer? Sometimes it's hard to tell what duties they breach. That's very true, because certain behaviour of the director might amount to a breach of a number of different duties. So if you think there's been a breach of a duty, well, you'd identify all the ones you thought were there. And remember to talk about both general law and statutory duties and the differences in the remedies and penalties that are available. What's that, Robo Murini? You want to know about oppression, because Pencil Dog is sometimes used to oppress you. I thought that we'd resolved all that, but that's a very good issue, Robo Murini, because with oppression, the law provides a statutory remedy. It sets out, it's not very clear on what oppression is. And we get some guidance from the case law or general law about it, but it doesn't tell us really everything about oppression. So it makes it interesting to... Yeah, but it's all set out in the legislation, I think. So, and you need to know how to access the legislation. What's that, Robo Lawyer? Do you have to copy out all the legislation? Robo, look, use your own discretion there. Like, depends on the question. I wouldn't be copying out whole chunks of legislation. That's like people who sort of, they think the answer, they've got an open book exam, so they go in there, and you know what they do? They copy up pages of the book. And they figure that the answer's in there somewhere. Well, that's not very wise, is it? Because they'll run out of time doing that. They can't do really well. The best answers, the answers which students give, which answer the question, answer what's being asked, and are presented in such a way that the people can find it easy to read and easy to follow what the people are saying. You need to make sure that your ideas are coming across clearly. So people marking your paper will be given can understand what you're talking about. That's very important. Yes. And what do you need to take into the exam? Well, I'd take in your textbook, your legislation, study guide, resource material, any overheads you've printed out. That's probably about all you really need. You don't need to go and get other materials. Look, if you've got those materials on hand, and what's that, Angel Learning, you should mark things in and highlight them in your textbook. That's a good idea. Prepare your textbook beforehand. Know where you can find the material. It's no good getting into that exam and trying to find material, because those 3 hours are going to go very, very quickly. If you don't know where to find the material, if you're saying I'm going to have to look everything up, that's not a good plan either. It's important to write your answer, but you know if you need to check something, you can go to the material. What's that? I think we've probably covered most things, yes. Yes, corporate finance, about shares and reductions of capital, that sort of stuff, share buybacks and dividend policy, yes. Look, in fact, the textbook actually talks about the 4 pillars of corporate law. One is sort of the formation and termination of companies. Second point is the relations between the members of the company, the internal governance rules, the obligations of directors. The third area is the corporate finance, about the raising of capital, by equity capital by shares, and different types of shares, preference shares, partly paid up shares, those sorts of things. By debentures, yes, that's using debt finance. The granting of the security, a floating charge, yes, the floating charge. We talked about charges, company charges, I think in a previous one. Yes, and the last one is the idea of the company's relationship with third parties, when people in the company enter into contracts with people outside the company and maybe they don't have the authority to do so. Issues about whether the company's bound, the internal management rule, the laws of agency. So these are probably the 4 aspects of corporate law. And what's that, a pencil dog? You want to know, are they all on the exam? Well, just between you and me, pencil dog, and I don't want you to spread this round, they probably are. They probably are. I could probably point to the questions where those areas are addressed, yes. What's that, Angel Learning? You don't have to do all. Well, anyway, we better go, and we'll say goodbye. What's that? You all want to wish everyone the best in their examinations in their future state. Oh, you're so thoughtful. Okay, well, we'll say goodbye. I'll go and switch the camera off now, and I'll come over here. Now, if I pan out, can I pan out? Now I'm coming in. Oh dear, that's funny. Okay, there we go. Say goodbye. There we are.